Welcome to the Multi-Instrument Tool tutorial, an all-in-one solution for adding randomized variations to your multi-instrument setup. The advanced page provides you with controls for most of the crucial parameters of the Watchkeeper. The Sequencer tab allows you to construct new rhythm patterns, control their speed, and further randomization settings, resulting in dynamic and unique sequences. Construct Rhythm generates new rhythm patterns for each patch by blending multiple rhythms from the global rhythms list. While Construct Rhythm * creates new rhythm patterns for each patch by blending rhythms from a specified category. Random Rhythm chooses any rhythm from the global list for each patch individually. And Random Rhythm * picks any rhythm from the specified category for each patch. The Category Selector menu specifies the same rhythm category for all patches, and by hitting the same Random Rhythm button, you can set one randomly picked rhythm to the whole multi-instrument. But let's rush things a little bit and jump to the Dynamics tab. We want to use two functions here. Dynamic Gaps button, which introduces gaps of silence by decreasing velocity to 0 at random areas of the velocity dynamic sequences, and Random Dynamic Shift, which shifts the velocity dynamic sequences for each patch individually. Heading back to the sequencer, Duration controls the frequency knob on the rhythm page for each patch. The * button switches frequency knobs to Hertz mode. This time, we're really interested in the Randomize button that sets individual values for the frequency knob in each patch. It takes just a few clicks to generate a new exciting result. And if we want to go back to the original frequencies, we can simply use the Reset button. In busy patches, we recommend using the Re-trigger, which cleans up space in the mix and prevents sample tails to clash with each other. The Play Once button engages the Play Once function for each patch and helps you create one-of-a-kind complex one-shots. Let's use the Keys and Sequence button to vary the outcome. We will cover those later in the video. In the Dynamics tab, you can control the velocity dynamics of each patch, including waveform selection, frequency randomization, and dynamic gaps, adding expressiveness and nuance to your performances or completely transforming your sequences. We've already talked about the dynamic gaps in the previous topic, so let's take a look at the dynamic waveforms. The waveform selector allows you to choose from sine, square, sawtooth, and triangle waveforms for the velocity dynamics tab. And the frequency selector specifies the frequency for those, ranging from 1 up to 8 cycles per sequence. Randomize waveform chooses different waveforms for the specified frequency, while randomize frequency sets different frequencies for the specified waveform. Here I have a multi-patch. But I want rhythms to morph into each other. Let's switch the dynamics on, turn the sensitivity of the dynamics to max, choose the triangle waveform, and randomize the frequencies of those. I can use the Shift-1 or Shift+1 buttons to move dynamics by step subdivisions at once, but let me use the Random Dynamic Shift once more to take it a little bit further and create a more complex pattern. And when you want to experiment and load different waveforms of different frequencies, simply press the Randomize All button and in one click turn this pattern into this one. Horizontal and vertical flips rotate all velocity dynamics sequences on a horizontal or vertical axis, and smooth dynamics reduces occasional spikes and significant differences between steps, resulting in a more natural sound. Active-passive switches between two modes of dynamics operation, and sensitivity controls the impact of velocity dynamics on the primary velocity sequences. The Position tab offers various options for shifting and randomizing the position of main velocity sequences within the Milti-Instrument, allowing you to create unique and evolving arrangements. Random Position Shift shifts each sequence of the Milti-Instrument by a random amount of whole steps. Random Position Shift * does the same, but by a random amount of step subdivisions. Shift -1 and Shift +1 buttons shift all sequences at once to the left or right by the same amount of whole steps. Shift -1 * and Shift +1 * do the same but by step subdivisions. Randomize Humanizing sets the humanizer knobs from 1 to 8 milliseconds for each patch, adding a hint of instability and unquantized feel to the instruments. Reset Humanizing sets it to the default state. Randomize Velocity sets randomized velocity sliders of each instrument from 1 to 10%. Horizontal and vertical flips rotate main sequence lanes on a horizontal or vertical axis. This tab alone provides you with incredible flexibility in finding new rhythm ideas. Let's take a Milti-Instrument. Randomize humanizer and velocity settings to make it less quantized, and then press Random Position Shift *. In conjunction with Randomize All from the Dynamics tab, it will completely transform our sequence. Only imagine all possibilities of this method. In the Filtering tab, you can apply filter sequences to your patches, control filter type, and sensitivity, and even link the filter behavior to velocity, shaping the timbre and character of your sound. Apply velocity to filter copies patterns from the velocity sequence lanes and paste them into the filter sequence lanes, adding realism to the sound. Since construct, random, and same random functions work with the load rhythm only option, you might want to transfer those velocity sequences to filter tabs. Filter Type Selector allows you to specify the filter type for the sequences on all patches, while Reset sets filter sequences to their default state. Sensitivity controls the impact of the filter sequence on the velocity sequence. Higher sensitivity settings result in darker sounds on low velocities. You can think of it as a dry-wet knob for the filtering. Dynamics controls the filter dynamics slider for each patch, acting as a compressor for sequences. Turning it counterclockwise lowers the cutoff point for each step, resulting in a darker sound, while turning it clockwise opens the filter until it has no impact on sequences. The filter velocity knob switches the filter on the main page to velocity mode and allows you to choose a cutoff point. Now the filter will react to the strength of incoming notes and will gradually close to the cutoff point on lower velocity settings. Note that this filter differs from the one in the Filter Sequence tab and has two modes, low pass and high pass. In the Panning tab, you can manipulate the stereo positioning of each patch, resulting in immersive and spatial soundscapes. Random Pan Polarity engages the Pan Sequencer tab for each patch and shifts the whole sequence to the left or right in the stereo field. Random Pan Chaotic does the same but randomizes every step of the pan sequences, creating constant stereo movement. Horizontal and vertical flips rotates pan sequences on a horizontal or vertical axis for each patch. Reset Pan sets pan sequences to their default state. The Doubling tab allows you to layer samples, control thresholds, adjust width and delay, and enhance the richness and depth of your patches. The threshold sets the velocity value from which doubling occurs in each patch. A range applies doubling to patches. Width defines the distance between layered samples in the stereo field. Random width applies random width for layered samples in all patches. And delay sets the time in milliseconds between layered samples, creating a larger sound and avoiding phase issues. Finally, reset sets the doubling to its default state. Let's put our knowledge into practice and make our multi-instrument go psychedelic. First, we'll make instruments jump in the stereo field by pressing the random pan-chaotic. After, we'll set the threshold around 85% and press arrange. Now let's go for the 100% width. And finally, we'll set the delay to 100 milliseconds to give our instruments a slapback. And we've jumped instantly into the thriller territory. Randomize odd even randomly sets the playback style of the patches to odd or even playback style. Other options will switch the entire multi-patch to only odd, even, random, or reversed playback. The AHD tab allows you to shape the envelope curves for each patch. Attack, hold, decay, and fade out. Shape the envelope curve for each patch in the multi-instrument for currently played samples. Reset returns the envelope to its default state. The Effects tab lets you load and randomize effect chains for each patch, giving you endless possibilities to shape and transform your sound with our great collection of presets. Random Chain loads a randomly selected effect chain for each patch. Random Chain asterisk loads effect chains randomly, but within the previously specified category. Same Random Chain loads the same effect chain randomly from the entire library. Same Random Chain asterisk loads the same effect chain randomly from a category specified in the category's menu. Bypass All bypasses all effect chains for A/B comparison, and Reset Chain deletes effect chains from the multi-instrument. The static panel controls pitch, key sequence randomization, and tempo, allowing you to fine-tune and modulate your multi-instrument with precision. Random Pitch Key picks a random key in the transpose area of the keyboard, resulting in drastic changes in the tone of the multi-instrument. Pitch minus and pitch plus shifts the key in the transpose area one semitone down or up. It's very handy when you want to tune a multi-instrument to the rest of your instruments. And Reset Pitch Key sets the key in the transpose area to its default state. Random Pitch 1 works with pitch sequences and shifts them strictly up or down for the whole sequence in each patch randomly. Random Pitch 2 sets different values in the pitch sequence for each step. Pitch minus and pitch plus shift pitch sequences one semitone down or up. Reset Pitch Sequence returns the pitch sequencer to its default state. Tempo divided and multiplied by 2 buttons control the tempo knob on the rhythm page of each patch. Random sets the tempo knob randomly for each patch of the multi-instrument, completely transforming it. And Reset sets the tempo knob to its default state. Dynamics controls the velocity tab of the sequencer for each patch. Turning it clockwise increases the volume by increasing the velocity, while turning it counterclockwise decreases the overall volume. You can think of it as a compressor for velocity sequences. Apply Dynamics prints the Dynamics knob current value onto velocity sequences. Keys and Sequence loads intervallic formulas for each sequencer and fills each step with different samples. The Keys function chooses just samples for existing intervallic formulas. The Sequence button loads new intervallic formulas for sequencers, and Set All Steps to a Random Key fills steps with one random sample for the whole sequence. Quick Save creates a temporary copy of your patch, so you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. And get back to the original sound by clicking the Quick Load. The Normal section introduces macro functions that combine multiple actions from the Advanced and Static sections, providing ultimate creative possibilities for your patches. Vary Pitch 1 is a combination of keys and sequence randomization and Random Pitch 1, which creates entirely new timbral palettes. Vary Pitch 2 does the same, but it also engages the re-trigger to prevent sounds from clashing with each other and resulting in a cleaner sound. Organic and hybrid shots enable the Play Once function for each patch, loads a random rhythm from a sound design category, and allows you to create complex and fresh organic or hybrid one-shots. Vary Shift 1 randomizes Humanize, sets randomize velocity sliders from 1 to 10%, and moves sequences randomly by whole steps. Vary Shift 2 does the same but moves sequences by step subdivisions. New Idea 1 loads a random rhythm from a specified category, applies the dynamic gaps, and copies velocity sequences to the filter tabs of the Milti-Instrument. New Idea 2 does the same, but loads rhythms randomly from the global list of rhythm presets, allowing you to find entirely new patterns for your production. We really love this function in conjunction with dynamics, especially with random triangle, saw, sine, or random dynamic waves. Let's create a new pattern from this multi-instrument. We'll use the New Idea 2, turn the dynamics on, load triangle dynamic waves, shift them randomly, shift sequences randomly, and even use chaotic stereo sequence on top of that. Dynamics on-off, random dynamics shift, and make gaps functions are identical to ones on the Dynamics tab of Advanced Settings. Random Position Shift and Random Position Shift asterisk were taken from the Position tab of the Advanced section. Stereopolar and Stereochaotic were taken from the Panning tab. Why did we do that? We want you to have all the cool features in one place. Gap and Vary produces gaps of silence in each patch using the Velocity Dynamics tab and shifts dynamic sequences randomly to create more intricate and unexpected results. This is the original multi-patch. Now let's use Gap and Vary paired with the keys and sequence randomization. Gap and Remix does the same as Gap and Vary, but also shifts velocity sequences, creating an entirely new pattern. It does wonders with more abstract patches. Here's the original. Now with Gap and Remix function plus key randomization. Dynamic filter engages filter sequence tabs, copies velocity sequences into them, and sets filter sensitivity to 30%. Reset filter sets filter sequences to their default state. Step sequencer on-off disengages all the tabs of the sequencer for each patch. Hard reset disengages and sets to default all sequencer tabs except velocity, resets dynamics, humanizer, and disengages advanced settings. But what if you want to use our multi-tool but keep some fundamental patches unaffected? Well, you can simply mute chosen patches, do all the magic, and then unmute them. Nice, huh? And that's it. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you, and until next time.